Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs, the X Review edition. Before I continue, I urge you to please press the like button. And if you're new to this show, I also urge you to subscribe. I urge you to subscribe because I have a project called Project 5000. I'm trying to get this channel to 5,000 subscribers. And if you're new to this channel, you will do very well by subscribing. If you have been someone who's been watching the videos I put out here and have not subscribed, please, I urge you to subscribe. As you know, the X Review edition is where I take geopolitical news from my X feed and I talk about them. I give a deep dive about what's happening on X. So without much ado, let's go into what's going on now. The big news of the day, though, is the fact that the energy truce is over and finally the Russians have taken to attacking the energy infrastructure in Ukraine again. So the first news here is from Arden. Who is Arden? Arden is I do the news, who's calibrated with Scott. It's a YouTube channel. He does mapping. He's one of the people who give us details about what's happening on the battlefield in Ukraine. Iskander have hit the CHP-4 power plant in Kiev. Substations in Kharkov are being targeted by Tornado S, with 5 explosions reported. The Tornado S is a very deadly weapon. It's one of the new variants of it that they now have that is like a HIMARS, but a much more bigger and dangerous HIMARS. And I think it has a thermobaric warhead in some cases. So what is going on now is that the Russians are putting pain on the Ukrainian energy infrastructure this night. They've really taken a big one. This has been coming off. They've been talking about this preparation for a major strike. And Arden had put looking like another large scale combined Russian missile strike against Ukraine. So this has been rumored for a while now, and then it has finally happened. Well, the new next story is about Syrsky. Syrsky is the commander of the Russian armed forces. He's the overall commander. And what is he saying here? He's actually lamenting. Syrsky is lamenting that the Russians are targeting, he says the Russians are targeting virtually everything, airfields, populated areas, infrastructure facilities. If we are supplied with a large number of medium and long-range missiles, including US-made ATACMS and German Taurus systems, we will be able to slow down Russia's weapon production by striking missiles and drone manufacturing facilities on Russian territory. He's wishing that the Americans and the Germans will be able to give him long-range missiles so that they can do some damage on their own part to the military-industrial complex of the Russians. The military-industrial complex of the Russians, some of them are scattered around the Moscow area, no doubt about that. There's Novgorod there. They have so many plants within the Novgorod area, but some are also very far off in Tatarstan, especially where the Guren-2 drones are. It's far off in Tatarstan. It will not be possible for them to hit all of them, but what they want to do is that there are very specific components of these missiles, especially the Iskander missiles, because of the supply chain of the people who produce the planes. They have a vast array of supply chain across Russia, and they want to be able to hit this supply chain and disrupt it. And that's what he's hoping for. He's hoping for ATACMS and he's hoping for Taurus. The Taurus is a no-go because the Germans are very much in the crosshairs of the Russians. The Russians, if they hear that they have German systems against, they use German systems against them like the Taurus, they will definitely take some very decisive action. Maybe send Oreshnik to one German facility, either a German facility or a German city. Because the Germans, when it comes to the Germans, the Russians are very, very sensitive because of their experience in World War II. As regards to the ATACMS, though, President Trump has decided that he's not going to be playing that game with the Russians and the Ukrainians. He has stopped giving them weapons. He did say that the Europeans can buy the weapons for them, but even then, he has held off giving the Russians, the Ukrainians, some long-range missiles. They have been using HIMARS. They have quite a lot of HIMARS they've been using recently. but I guess they may have been part of the old consignment or maybe purchased by Paul. So Syrsky is wishing for the barrage of attacks from the Iskander missiles has become very relentless, especially now that we hear that the Russians have tripled their ability to produce Iskander missiles. So this is Syrsky's wish. It's not going to get it. He won't be granted that wish. I can be very sure of that. Let's go to the next story now. The next story is also about this ongoing attack. Kiev getting hammered tonight. It's quite a sad thing because Kiev has been in darkness. We can even see that they are still in darkness here now. They have been doing so much to try and repair most of the thermal power plants around Kiev, and the Russians are just like trying to frustrate them. The moment they repair it, they blow it up. So this is what is happening here now. It's a massive attack going on here, and the Ukrainians are having a very bad night in Kiev. Same story here now. This is very much active in the interaction in the news media here now. Ukrainian channels report strikes on targets in Kharkov, Sumy, and the Dnipropetrovsk regions. They also claim that a 750 kilowatt power substation in Kiev region was hit, reportedly near Nalivyakovka, possibly the key line linking the Rovno nuclear power plant to Kiev. The Russians are laying it out heavily, and there are quite a lot of videos here. Let's watch them. So this one here doesn't have a sound. Let's see the next one. That also doesn't have a sound, but it's I think the people recording it are just staying safe and keeping far away from their windows and all. So
Ух, ебать. Ебать эту музыку. Там якийсь завод тут. Ух, ебать. Ебать.
oh my God. A citizen's journalism like this that give us a view of what really is happening. So it is really a terrifying effect there. Obviously, the person there was swearing from one of the shots and he decided to bleep it. It's really a tough one. The Ukrainians are really having a bad night. They are being hammered, and it's a really tough one for them this night. It really is. The Russians have held off attacking the energy infrastructure for 1 week now because they were asked by President Trump. President Trump reached out to President Putin and asked him to hold off attacking the energy infrastructure. It was supposed to be one of the coldest periods in Ukraine, and they didn't attack. But that didn't mean that the Russians were in attacking. The Russians were attacking the logistic centers within Ukraine. They attacked rail stations. They attacked quite a lot of places. But today we now hear that they started to attack coal mines. They even attacked some coal mines earlier today, and now they are attacking the power stations, including the substations that feeds off of a nuclear plant. It's quite a terrible night for the Ukrainians this night. And let's go on to the next story now. Seems like that story again is about this same attack. It says Kiev continues to get rocked. Several more explosions were reported in the capital. The Dnipropetrovsk is also being hit hard. Another 4 Iskander struck the city. This one does have sound. It's quite terrifying. These Iskanders have become the evil stars of this. The Iskander didn't guarantee drones. And to think this Iskander now can do 1,000 kilometers, very extensive range now. A powerful ballistic missile that the Ukrainian, even their Patriot missiles can stop. Tough night for the Ukrainians. So this is what's going on now in Kiev and in Dnipropetrovsk. So we go on to the next story here now, and that story comes the same thing too from the same thing we're just talking about. It says it gives us more details. Russia has tripled this Iskander missile production thanks to deliveries from China, according to CSIS. What we know, in 2025, Russia produced approximately 50 9M723 missile per month, compared to only 36 produced between February 2022 and China became the main supplier of dual-use goods, computer chips, machine tools, radars, sensors, and detectors that Russia cannot produce in sufficient quantities itself. China accounted for 70% of Russia's ballistic missile fuel imports. In addition, drone casings, lithium batteries, and fiber optic cables for drone production were supplied. It's worth noting that information recently surfaced from suggested China is assisting Russia in the development of Oreshnik missiles. However, the Chinese foreign ministry has denied this. The Ukrainians, the Western politicians, and those in the European Union who have crafted all manners of policies against the Russians are finding who to blame. They just didn't know and think that the Russians will have the capacity to somehow bypass all the supply chains that they thought they alone had, and that the Russians will find a way to scour for components for their missile systems from wherever they could get them from in the world. Because most times when these missiles do land, they have components from even the Western countries, American components, they have German components, they have components from some of the most antagonistic countries against the Germans, I mean the Russians. So nevertheless, the Chinese, they do sell dual purpose goods. The CNC machines are used in every industry, not only the military industrial complex. So they are dual purpose, but there's a blame game now. Everybody wants to blame China. They are doing all their best to blame China. Nobody is beginning to believe that the Russians can do this by themselves. The Russians have been doing it by themselves for several centuries and several years. And we know that this is a very innovative country. So this is what he is one of what does he call himself? He say, I stand with Ukraine, love destroyed Russian tanks, NAFO managing director. So he is obviously a supporter of the Ukrainians, and he's the one who is putting that, and it's a blame game against the Chinese. Same thing here again. Kiev, one after another. You won't, I was just imagine how it will be living in this city on such a night. Very harrowing. It is very depressing. And to think that they can't do anything about it. They knew this was coming. Satellite planes that will take off from Ukrainka base, Inkel's base. They were seeing all the movements of the Russian strategic bombers that ultimately the T-95s and all that ultimately these missiles. And they just could not do anything about it. There's nothing anybody can do about it. Anyway, let's go on to the next story. The Russians are showing capacity and power that has transcended whatever anybody thought about them. This is the next story here now talks about China. A number of sources cite the presence of Chinese research vessel Dayang in Hua in the Arabian Sea near the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln as one of the probable reasons for the postponed US attack. The ship is located near the aircraft carrier to conduct scientific research, but many suspect that China is likely sharing intelligence with Iran. The presence of this vessel near US Navy carrier group is making Pentagon nervous. The Chinese are trading slowly. They are feeling like they have a Chinese saying, you feel the stones in the river so that you can move. They are slowly becoming a challenger of America's maritime power and maritime might. By miles, the Americans are the world's hegemon when it comes to maritime aviation and maritime military in the maritime space. But as the Chinese are building the world's biggest navy, they are building aircraft carriers, and they are building all this vast array of destroyers and naval ships, they are also now beginning to be useful to their partners. And in this particular case here is that I think the reason for the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln moving away from the Arabian coast is just like I've always said recent times, the risk to President Trump's presidency is very high. The Uranians were locked and cocked and ready, and they were very determined to give the Americans a black eye of some sort. As long as the Americans are not going in for a long war, the Iranians said they don't consider any kind of strike, whether it's a short strike, a pin strike, a one-day strike, they will consider it all-out war, and they will make it a regional war. The Gulf countries started to plead and appeal to the Americans. The Saudi Arabians appealed, the Qataris appealed, the UAE appealed, and they started doing shuttle diplomacy, not only to Washington and to America, but also to Russia. And over the course of time, President Trump has relented. Negotiations are ongoing now, and we will see what will come off of it. But Chinese are becoming much more assertive somehow in their naval capacity. What is this? President Trump has put out a tweet again. Does Maka know we had no problem trading with Canada until the con man and the tariffs came along? We have just been informed that Canada is a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariff for years on dairy products. That is true. That has been going on for a long time, and has just announced that they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us. Also, based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7 days period. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President Trump has been giving it to the Canadians. McCartney has become so frustrated that he made a very powerful speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where he said that the middle powers have to start to come together because the world has changed. The superpowers of the world, the most powerful countries, which I guess is Russia, China, and America, that they are now moving in a way to protect their interests. And it is very important that the middle powers, as I call them, countries like Germany and Canada. But he has tried to stand up to Trump, and then he has tried also to try to make ways of diversifying the Canadian economy. He has gone to have a trade deal with the Chinese. He has met with the Indians. He has gone to Korea. He's been very busy. He's gone to all those conferences like the ASEAN conference and the APEC conference, all in trying to build better relationship. I think he's looking east because there's not much to look for now in Europe. The Europeans themselves are now realizing that they need to also diversify. So they too are making deals in Brazil and making deals with the Indians. So to your tent, oh Israel, most of these countries are now moving away from America. But President Trump realizes that Canada continues to be one of America's big trading partners. America is their biggest market by miles, and that is the market and the consumption in America that has been what the world here now is weaponized by President Trump against the Canadians. He's bringing them to heel. He really does want to put pain on Canada, and he calls them the 55th state of America. The Canadians are not having a good time. In fact, it is the fact that there was a massive reaction against President Trump that this Prime Minister Carney was actually elected because his party was almost losing the election under Justin Trudeau then. They were almost losing the election, but because of Trump's assertiveness against Canada, they decided to vote in McCartney. McCartney is having an interesting time. That is how I would just say it. I wish him well, and I hope that he can find a way to navigate his relationship with Donald Trump. It's not an easy one for him. It's not an easy time for anybody answering Canadian Premier at this time when President Trump is very intent in destabilizing Canada. European Union plans to ban EU member states from purchasing platinum, copper, iridium, rhodium from Russia as part of its 20th. It was quite interesting to start to see that the European Union was looking beyond just Russia, and we're now looking to doing deals with Mercosur and India. Those were the first times we heard the European Union going out of just doing Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Kaya Kallas, though, is not sold on any other project apart from Ukraine. Her one remit as the High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs is to defeat Russia and to bolster Ukraine. So she is the one who is so dogged, very dogged. You will call someone like a policymaker like Kaya Kallas a terrier, very dogged, or a pit bull for that matter. She's so focused on this bringing pain to the Russians project that it is the only thing that it has come to define her. It has possessed her. The whole world has seen that this is all. And it is for that reason why Peskov was saying the Americans won't talk to her and even the Russians won't talk to her. She is just a one-trick pony. Destroy Russia. Anyway, European Union plans to ban EU member states from purchasing platinum, copper, iridium, and rhodium from Russia as part of its 20th package. I wonder where they will get these products. Possibly they will be hoping to get it from China. Makes them more vulnerable to the Chinese anyway. That is their little problem. It is a problem driven by unbridled hatred. Anyway, let's go on to the next story. President Trump believes significant progress is being made towards resolving the Ukrainian conflict. I am very wary about clicking on videos like that from Fox and some other channels because it's very easy to get demonetized or to get accused of copyright. So I'm very wary about it. So let me see.
In one way, but in another way, it's 25,000 souls that if I can solve it, we're not spending money like Biden did. He gave $350 billion away. I make everyone pay. And the United Nations, they're a little bit involved. But if you take a look at what's happening, the countries of Europe are paying us for the weapons. And I think we're doing very well with Ukraine and Russia for the first.
Well, the peace process is ongoing, and he's been very focused on it. They are meeting a trilateral and tripartite meeting will be taking place again in Abu Dhabi between the Americans, the Russians, and the Ukrainians. The sticking point is still the land issue that many people are getting weary for this war, especially with Ukraine, with this unrelenting attack on the energy systems that is causing pain to the Ukrainians. The population is now also wanting them to, that concession that the Russians are insisting on, that they should withdraw from the Donbass, the Ukrainian population is beginning to find it amenable. They are beginning to be able to live with it. So the peace process continues. This one says that Russia is preparing massive strike. It could happen tonight. It has already happened. This is obviously a report before this attack has finally happened. Enemy monitoring resources are publishing the currently available information. There's deployment of T-94. This is what I was saying. There was a lot of signals that this watchers, military bloggers were already watching the movements of the Russian military armaments and planes. The attack will take place in two different stages. The second is massive strike on major energy and gas infrastructure. Also, according to available information, strikes on logistic bridges, roads, and the Ukrainians just have nothing in response. They have no air defenses. They have nothing to stop the Russians. The Russians are assaulting and violating their airspace with impunity. There's nothing they can do about it. They are the suite of air systems that the Russians are using. They are using Geran 2 drones, and these Geran 2 drones are flying very low, just a little bit above the apartments. 9-story apartments, and it may just even be that's one of the reasons why they bump into these apartments very, very often now. The Ukrainians just don't have any answer for them. And then they also use the Zircon hypersonic missiles. They use the Iskander missiles. It's just a barrage, and the Ukrainians are really left without an ability to defend themselves. President Zelensky has continued to call on the European partners to help, and it was in his frustration that they were not able to help that he finally took out that frustration against the Europeans in Davos, and he gave them a shellacking and a tongue lashing, despite all the fact that people like Ayakalas just totally focused on trying to help Ukraine. Anyway, the next story here says strikes have been carried out against a number of energy infrastructure. Danitskaya thermal plant, TPP-4, in Kiev was hit by 4 Iskander-M operational tactical missile systems. The attack is ongoing. An Iskander-M strike and Garan 2. So this is just what we're saying. Oh my God. And the next video and the next one, okay, these are pictures. So it's just ongoing and ongoing, relentless. It's been a long night for the Ukrainians. It's a terrible night for them. They are going to have this problem with the energy infrastructure ongoing for a little while. Breaking, Russia has launched at least 30 ballistic missiles towards Ukraine. Drone attacks are ongoing. Russian frigate armed with 8 caliber cruise missiles is operating in the Black Sea. Several Tu series strategic bombers are airborne, while Kinjal hypersonic missiles have been. I think this was all an alert before the details we are now seeing. Several Tu series and Kinjal. So these are just the extensive suites and arrays of weapons, air weapons that the Russians are using, and they send them from different locations. They are incoming from various locations all across Ukraine, all across Russia, from the Black Sea. It's unrelenting. This is not a good night for the Ukrainians at all. Let's see the next story here now. The next story, sometimes the very interesting replies too. We'll look at one of those replies eventually. We have another story. According to New York Times, Trump's demand on Iran to aimed at to address long-standing concerns about the threat that Iran and its proxies pose to the United States military bases and close U.S. partners such as Israel and Saudi Arabia. If Iran, okay, so what is this here now? Aaron Mate. Aaron Mate is the Gray Zone, journalist with the Gray Zone, writing Mate Substack, co-host, useful idiot podcast. So he is with the Gray Zone. If Iran had military bases surrounding the U.S. and the U.S. does with Iran, would anyone call the U.S. a threat to Iran? I think this argument about Iran and President Trump is quite ongoing. Mr. Trump's demand aimed to address long-standing concerns about the threat that Iran and its proxies pose to the United States military and close U.S. partners like Israel and Saudi Arabia. But while many Middle Eastern countries also oppose Iran's regional activities, few of its neighbors supported Mr. Trump's vow to attack it, concerned that such a move could set off a broader war. This is just what I had already analyzed. And Ramate is also talking about it. I'd already said that the regional partners did impress on President Trump. This is a report from the New York Times. So by contrast, Iran has previously voiced support for the 2002 Arab Peace Initiative, which offered Israel full normalization if it ends its occupation and dispossession of the Palestinians. Israel rejects that and insists that no one, including Iran, resists long-standing aggression. Anyway, they are now in the negotiation phase. Steve Witkoff will be meeting with Aragachi, which obviously is the next story. They are going to meet in the coming days. Witkoff, Iran's Aragachi, to discuss possible nuclear deal on Friday. So they are going to meet. I think President Trump has decided to err on the side of caution. He will take a big risk for his presidency. There will be body bags of Americans coming back to America in body bags, and that will be a big risk to him. The midterm elections are looming, and it will be better for him to just go away from this particular problem. We have a problem here now for a Nigerian. He has lost his life. He was fighting on the side of the Russians. a volunteer from Nigeria who fought on the side of the armed forces of Russia Federation, died in one of the front lines. At home, he left behind a wife and 2 children. Rest in peace. Well, we know that a lot of Africans are in the Russian contingent. They pay very well, as we hear. But before then, too, we always used to hear that they were abducted, but apparently quite a lot of Africans get into the Russian army and they get contracts. Maybe this one, as happens with the military and with the war situation, he may have been killed. He may have been killed in the war, and this is what this report says. May his soul rest in peace. It's from Nigeria. I'm also from Nigeria, so I feel for his family and for his children. Well, I will end with one or two of these stories here now. And Russia has resumed bombing of Kiev last 4 days after Trump asked Putin for a week-long ceasefire due to extreme weather. It's currently -5 degrees to -20, and there were about a dozen large explosions that reverberated across the Ukrainian capital moments ago. So he is just reporting. And so this one is, I think somebody is laughing at whoever made this report said, what did he say here? He said, this clown went from Russia is running out of missiles to Russia has tripled production without a moment of reflection. This is Noel reports. Russia has tripled production of Iskander missiles with China playing a key role. This is a report we had already seen earlier on, but we should remember that at one point in time, many people were saying that Russia was even running out of missiles and that they were using washing machines to get chips to be able to make their missiles. This has put a lie, and I think that's the irony that reporter is saying. I will end with this here now. AMK, week-long energy ceasefire arranged by President Trump is over in Ukraine following Russian missile and drone strikes of power plants in Kiev region, Kharkiv region, Dnipro, and 750 electrical substation, Odessa substation, and others. It is quite extensive. It's quite extensive. And AMK mapping had also reported, it's reporting it also. It's giving more details about it. AMK is one of the more recognized mappers of the war. And these are the substations that have all been damaged from his own reckoning and his information. He has extensive information, I must say that. And if he says this is what, then he must have his contacts who have put it to him that these are the places that have been attacked. And so Russia is putting a lot of pain to giving them a lot of pain. The Ukrainians are having a bad night, or they had a bad night. Their power plants have been destroyed. These power plants, power energy workers have been struggling. They've done their best to try and build them back after several attacks, but now the Russians have gone back again and attacked them. Anyway, we hope the Ukrainians will be able to either come to an agreement with the Russians or find a way to survive. We wish them well as they go through this harrowing period. It's not an easy one for the Ukrainians. Anyway, this is where I'll end my show for the day. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Project 5000. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and support Project 5000. Until my next video, you have a good day.